Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the July 2018 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors meeting. First up will be invocation by Supervisor Benke, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If everybody please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we pray today for your mercy and grace, which we thank you for bestowing upon our lives. You are a great and loving God. Help us to humble ourselves before you. Help us to listen first and speak second. We pray for the business we are about to discuss, that in every decision we make, we look to you for guidance in making the right decision. Bless our county and the residents that we represent. Keep our people safe in all the activities of our great county. Thank you for all you do for us and the people we represent. Bless this meeting, and we give you all the honor and glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Supervisor Benke. Roll call is going around. All 25 members are present this evening. Next up will be consideration and correction of our minutes from our June 19th, 2018 board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Benke, second by Supervisor Hoffman to approve those minutes. Any discussion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and the minutes are approved. There are no additions or deletions to the agenda this evening. If I recall, this is like a third month in a row. I think it's a record. We'll have to check the archives on that, but it's a good thing. So, moving right along, if I could have County Executive Ziegler meet me at the podium. And Jerry, are you here? You want to come up and accept the proclamation for clean sweep? If you don't mind, I should have talked to you beforehand. I apologize for that. As you know, in Manitowoc County, every year we have the Clean Sweep program, which essentially eliminates millions, well, not millions now, but we finally reached that million-pound level this year of hazardous waste that would potentially end up in our landfills or even the waters around here. So, great job once again. We've always honored the hundreds of volunteers that help with this program. So, we have a proclamation commending the Clean Sweep program volunteers and staff. Whereas Manitowoc County held a household, very small quantity generator and agricultural hazardous waste collection at the Manitowoc County Highway Department building on May 18th and 19th, 2018. And whereas this year's Clean Sweep program collected 35,862 pounds of hazardous waste from 464 households, 9 businesses, and 12 farms here in Manitowoc County. And whereas the success of Manitowoc County's Clean Sweep program is due in large part to the efforts of the volunteers and county staff who work on those collection days. Whereas the volunteers and county staff saved Manitowoc County more than $5,000 compared to what the same work would have cost had it been performed by a contractor, as is done in most other Wisconsin Clean Sweep programs. Now, therefore, we, Bob Ziegler, Manitowoc County Executive, Jim Bryan, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, commends the volunteers and county staff on their effort and their fine work in making this year's Manitowoc County Clean Sweep program a success. Jerry, thank you once again.
Just a quick thank you to the county board. You've been supporting this program for 33 years. It's a testament to the support we get from administration and from the board. And like the old saying goes, we couldn't do it without you. So thank you.
I did some cleanup from my dad's house and then my house as well. And after I got home, my mother-in-law was going to do this, so I was a good son-in-law, and I went out with my mother-in-law's and grabbed her stuff too. So we actually made 3 trips through there that morning. I think I was trying to get that millionth pound. I think there was a lottery or a big award for that, but just teasing, of course. All right, next up, I have Supervisors Falkowski, Droll, and myself, and I think they're going to stay there anyway, but you're certainly welcome to come up here. I do have your mics on, so we'll be able to speak during, but We're going to give a quick presentation on county government in Washington D.C. Day, which was May 23rd. As you know, all of you received an email, and I think all county boards in Wisconsin, along with the county executives in Wisconsin, received an invitation from the White House to attend a conference there on May 23rd. I remember when I first received the email, I was in my office in the courthouse, and Bob was there in his office, and I think we got the email at the same time, and I jokingly said to Bob, "So you want to go to Washington, D.C.?" And we both laughed, because how many of these spam emails do we get every week? We get all this stuff, and at first it looked very realistic, but it also looked like, it's a spam thing. So a couple of days later, there was another one, and well, then now it's piquing my curiosity, because as much as I got my degree in political science and a chance to go to the White House, this would be incredible for a guy like me, myself, and all of us. So I did send the email to our IT department, and Jerry, great job. They have better spam filters and virus controls and stuff. Instead of opening it on my home computer or anywhere else, they could check it a little bit better, and everything came out legitimate. And by then, the county association weighed in, and they said that people were getting these emails, so it was legitimate. So then the thought process started going. So I finally convinced myself to use my own money, which we did. All three of us used our own money. This was not paid for by any county tax dollars. So the three of us went, and we all had different flights and things, but we all made it out there. And so to start it off with, I just have a little movie presentation my daughter put together over the pictures we had. I'll try to back it up. I'll try to back it up a little bit too, so everybody can see it. All right. I think we're right. So. I'll get I know it probably got a little bit longer, but I think all three of us thought it was a great adventure. And obviously, you recognize several of those people in those photos. Jake Leinenkugel, who was part of the Leinenkugel Brewery here, is now, I think, help me, I know he's with the Veterans Affairs, if I remember correctly. Right. And Representative Sean Duffy, one of the first gentlemen on there, he's a representative, a congressman from Upper North in Wisconsin here, and I'm sure everybody recognized Kellyanne Conway, another special assistant to the president. So all in all, it was a very exciting adventure.
The Mike Williams lookalike was Sonny Perdue, Secretary of
Yes, there you go. Sonny Perdue, the former governor of Georgia, he was in there. He was the Secretary of USDA now. So very good. I hope the administration was serious about establishing communications with county government. That was the intent of having the conference. Initially, the tour was in the morning. It was just, for a person who loves politics, it's just incredible being in the areas where Abraham Lincoln, FDR, JFK, Ronald Reagan, all the presidents that reside in the White House went through this, and all the history. You just could feel that in there. It was just incredible. One of the things I found interesting, I know when we were going in, of course it had to be a hot day. It was generating just like it was yesterday around here last week. There was fans on little tents as you were walking up to before you actually get to the White House, and I think Supervisors Falkowski and Nadrola and myself thought, well, this is a nice little cool thing. From what I understand, it was because actually the dogs that were there, actually, instead of sniffing you as you went through to get your scent, they actually got the whiff of your scent off of those fans blowing on them. So that's how they figured out who was going into the White House. That was incredible. So the one thing I haven't figured out, though, is if you notice a lot of the rooms in the White House, a lot of the carpets were rolled up to a little roll. So I haven't found out about that one. But all in all, a great time, a good adventure, and I hope they're very sincere about establishing a relationship with county governments, not only Wisconsin, but other county governments across the United States. I know their intent was to invite every state in the union for at least 1 month to bring everybody in there and talk about county government. I'll get one more comment. If you saw that one of the last pictures, there was a truck in the middle of the night. It was actually an asphalt truck. My hotel room was about 3 blocks away from the White House, and I still wasn't used to that time. And for me, I stay up late and I get up early, so it was 11 o'clock D.C. Eastern Standard Time. So about 10 o'clock, I hear this rumbling outside. Well, I got to go check it out, so I go out there. Here they're got the road blocked off. They've got a couple trucks and grinders, and they're milling down the road. And by morning, they had repaved that 3-block section of blacktop, which obviously they have to, because then the next morning, as you see, there's just cars and thousands of people coming here. So they got to do it at night. So I sent that to Mark Olson. I sent it to my city the counterparts in the city as well, and it's actually becoming a trend. But I thought that was very interesting, and they really ripped through it. It was very impressive. So I have Supervisor Falkowski and Supervisor Jarol's microphones on. If they'd like to say a few words or anything, that'd be great.
I would say Wisconsin was the 15th state that was there after invitation. California had been there the week before, and Wisconsin had the biggest contingent. There were 124 of us there that were county board representatives and county directors and things, and they were very sincere. They gave us, and I don't know if we passed this out to everybody, all their emails, all their phone numbers, the names of all of their administrative aides, plus all of those people that you saw there were in some way, shape, or form very instrumental in liaisoning with the states, the counties, and the federal government. And they said, if you have good ideas, share them with us, and we'll share them with everybody. If you've got problems, other people have problems, let us know, and we'll work on these together. And they intend to have all 52 states invited this year. And as far as they knew, this was the first time that had come. And I just quick aside, the meetings were very good. They were one right after the other, and there was time for questions after each person. And I did tell Sonny Perdue that milk comes from cows, not almonds, and tell those people in California that that we would make all the milk for America, and it did get a standing ovation from the crowd because there are a lot of farm folks there. Being out there, and I stayed with my brother, a brother-in-law and his wife in Silver Spring, Maryland. They live 3 miles from the parking lot to the train station that I took in. It was a 45-minute bumper-to-bumper ride in the morning to get there. And then when I got downtown at the train station, it was 80 degrees, and I was walking over to the where we were supposed to be going in, and so that was maybe a half an hour walk in 80-degree heat. And then I got to where I thought we were supposed to go, the executive office building, and stood in line, and I asked people, hey, is this the conference? Are you here for the counties, Wisconsin County? No, but yeah, so I'm standing in line, waiting. I get in, and they take, there's so much security, and everybody's dressed, flak jackets, ammo, and semi-automatic rifles, and extra pistols, and you name it, and they're young people who are in excellent shape, and they're there to protect everybody, no question about it, and they have dogs and all that stuff. And so I got up there, I showed them all my stuff, and then I realized that I was in the wrong place. And so I thought, well, there's supposed to be a tour of the White House, so I thought, well, there's the White House. So I just struck out on my own, and I mean, it was like clear, there was a sidewalk.
He was crossing the South
Right,
Lawn.
so I was just walking the South Lawn and I get to the back of the White House, and all of a sudden these 2 Secret Service guys turn around and freak out. What are you doing here? And I said, well, I have been invited, and I reached into my pocket to grab this thing, and they said, we don't care what, get out, go back the way you came. And I said, no, I'm going, and I go in and so I had to walk back the way I came, down around the block to the other side, and halfway to the other side of the White House, I asked, there were like 2 more Secret Service guys, and I go, hey, can you show me what? And then finally I got to where I'm going, and I get there, and I'm in line with like 300 little school kids, and I thought, this can't be right. I mean, this is, I'm an invited county representative and stuff. So I'm standing in line with all the school kids and stuff, and then this little girl in front of me who is maybe, I don't know, like 10 or 12, and her birthday is wrong on the security checklist to get in, so they won't let her in. And they say, you have to go talk to those guys over there. They send her to talk to these 3 guys dressed for combat in, like Afghanistan. And so she braves up there, and they say, hey, go ahead. And they figured it all out. She had the year wrong on the birth date, and they wouldn't let her in until that was cleared up. That's the security that they have there. So, and then when I just kind of by accident miraculously ran into Jim and Jim outside on the other side of the White House. And so we're going to go for this photo op while we're all there. So we give our phones to this woman standing there and head back up to the doorway, and these 2 women Social Security people are there, and they freak out, and they're yelling, you can't take pictures, get down, get off. So, yeah, okay, so we go back down, and I had left my bag of souvenir bookmarks on a pillar in front of the White House. So we go down the stairs, and they take the pictures and everything, and then we go off to the shade, and we're just talking. We know that we got to go to this other place for the meeting now, and all of a sudden, there is an unattended bag in front of the White House, and the whole place lights up, and they're yelling who and what and everything, and then they're saying, they're announcing this, is somebody leave a bag? And I go, yeah, that's me. and these two Secret Service women are like, over there, right now, and so I go over there and I grab, thanks, yeah, and I get out. So I'm sure that I'm on some record somewhere for doing this. So,
Yeah.
But and aside from all of that, it's really, I thought, the sincerity of the people that we met and their interest in what we were there for, I thought was exceptional. And there were, I think, definitely good things that would come of it. And the guy who was in charge of that whole thing is from Iowa, and he used to live in Wisconsin and stuff. And I talked to him for a little while, and he said they're absolutely serious about this, that they feel that the best way for the federal government to work is in conjunction with representatives like us. So have we passed that out to everybody yet for all of?
Not all the information, but certainly if anybody wants it, we have all that.
Right, we have
definitely,
all
yes.
the names of all those. There were people from trade organizations. Wisconsin is the 14th biggest exporter of agricultural goods in the nation. There were people there, Jake Leinenkugel from the VA, but other people from the VA. There were people there from the transportation department, and just anything that had anything to do with something that would concern us were there. It was aside from, and my brother-in-law, who has been a video journalist in Washington, D.C. for probably 30 years, said that he was surprised that I wasn't having that conversation on the south lawn of the White House face down and handcuffed.
Yeah, Supervisor Falkowski and I finally said, this guy I think he's from Illinois. I don't know how he stuck in with us. No. Supervisor Falkowski?
No, we had a tremendous event there. I know currently I'm still in contact with the trade representatives from that conference and the Veterans Association as well. So their outreach was sincere. They actually do respond to these things, and they don't put any kind of standings as whether you're from a small county or who you are. They sincerely have some interest in what you're having to say. And we did behave quite well. We really did. It was a good experience.
Yes. If you ever get the chance to go to the White House, it was, yes. So that's all I have. Thank you for being patient with it. If you did see, though, it was before Supervisor Girold joined us outside on the front driveway, but there was a picture of myself and Supervisor Falkowski in front of those doors that we were not allowed. Somehow, we just took it, got it taken, but when Rick came out, boy, then it was, yeah, get out of here. So I'm surprised we were there. So thank you very much on that. All right, I'm going to turn over to the public comment, but under public comment, or Supervisor Williams, you had a comment, or?
I'd be willing to pay if Supervisor Girold would put that on tape or a CD or something, and I could play it at family functions.
I guess you have to talk to them outside the meeting, but it's a very, very good idea. Thank you, Supervisor Williams. All right, we will go on to public comment, and under public comment first, we have a presentation by Gib Clark, the Director, and Kristen Stearns, the CEO of Development for Lakeshore Community Healthcare. Welcome once again. I know you were here several years ago, and they contacted me about giving a presentation to the board, and I said gladly. So this worked out nicely. So it's all yours. Should be on.
Okay, let's just make sure this works. All right. I really don't like microphones very much. So good evening. My name is Kristen Stearns. I'm the CEO of Lakeshore Community Healthcare. And you're right, I was here a couple years ago, and I'm really excited to be back to tell you about the great work that Lakeshore is doing and how we're growing in Manitowoc County. And with me tonight, I have Gib Clark, our development director, and so he's gonna punch me if I go too long. He'll just do this so you guys don't have to listen to me. So just a little bit of history about Lakeshore. We were established back in 2007 as Healthy Teeth, Healthy Communities, which provided oral health care to all the schools in Manitowoc County. And today we currently are also in all the schools in Manitowoc County providing full restorative oral health care. So we have a dentist, hygienist, and dental assistants that go in, and we served about 800, a little over 800 children last year in Manitowoc County with that program. Healthy Teeth, Healthy Communities came out of the Healthiest Manitowoc County community needs assessment, where both the hospital systems, public health, and get together and really assess the community needs. And the number one need back in 2006 was access to oral health care. A number of our dentists in town would take individuals with Medicaid, but there was still a huge access issue, and those who are uninsured couldn't get that access. And we were seeing the effects of that in the hospital systems and on in the ERs. And in fact, a report came out in 2012 from the state of Wisconsin that indicated that both hospital systems here in Manitowoc County over the previous 4 years, we're taking in about 750 emergency room visits for oral health issues, and couldn't be treated there, of course. And it was costing Holy Family in Aurora here in Manitowoc, it was costing them an average of $800 per each individual person. So if you multiply that, it's a lot of money we were spending on oral health care in a really inappropriate way. So Healthiest Manitowoc County wanted to do something again. They created Healthy Teeth, Healthy Communities to really serve the children in our community, hoping that if we could get access to oral health care to the kids, that they could grow up into adults with good oral health care. Alongside that, there was a group in Sheboygan really looking at the same thing, again, identifying those needs as oral health being the number one need, and then after that, access to behavioral health and primary medical. In January of 2014, both communities came together and created Lakeshore Community Healthcare. Lakeshore Community Healthcare is a federally qualified community health center, and we love going to Washington, D.C. So, Jim, if you ever want to come with us, we'd be happy to have you join us. Also, we do a lot in D.C. as we get supported by the federal government through the Department of Health and Human Services. So part of our funding sources from them, and we're bipartisan. We've been bipartisan supported over the last 51 years. Community health centers came out of the Johnson era, and so and there's about 1,900 community health centers across the United States, over 10,000 sites. So we're one of many. We are a nonprofit organization of a board of directors, and our board of directors is made up of our patients of the clinic. And so we're really excited that they really guide us in really serving the community and identifying the needs of those individuals. Our mission is access to care. We serve everybody in the community as a community health center, but we really focus on those individuals that are uninsured. And in Manitowoc County, there's about 24,000 individuals throughout the county that are identified as at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. And so that's really our key. We really want to help that group of individuals get the health care that they need so that they can be engaged and active members of Manitowoc County. Our services are primary medical care. We have a physician on site and a nurse practitioner that provides primary medical care. We also have therapists that provide outpatient mental health services. And we have dental, of course, in-house as well as in our school program yet. We just moved our offices to Calumet, and we're really excited. We have a brand new facility in Dan Wergen. We're renting from him, so I always have to say it's the Old Red Owl. So if you guys know what that is, yes, right? That's where we are. Or we're right next to Little Caesars if you like Little Caesars pizza. We can smell it. It smells delicious. Maybe not good for my waist and my health, but it smells delicious. So we're in this really amazing new facility, and in that we've also added in-house pharmacy. So not only do we provide medical, dental, behavioral health now, but we also provide in-house pharmacy services to our patients. Last year, we were able to serve 4,000 patients in Manitowoc County, and with our expanded new facility, our hope is to double that amount of patients over the next couple of years. Again, knowing that there's about 24,000 individuals that could really use our services. A couple of things that that we're looking forward to this year. We do have an opportunity we have an opportunity through a grant through the federal government to expand our substance use services and really look at the opioid issue within Manitowoc County. And we know that that is one issue that's that's risen to the top in our community health needs assessments, especially our overdoses. And so one of the things we're looking at doing is how do we support the community and those members that could really use some intensive outpatient services. And so with our new federal grant, we'll be looking at creating a medication-assisted treatment program to help support those individuals. And so that will happen this next year. We do continue to have partnerships with our health systems, so we partner with Holy Family as well as Aurora, and we have to provide a continuum of care, so we're able to actually refer people into those systems that need specialty services. So as we provide primary health, there's a lot of individuals that need more than that have chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension that may need a cardiologist or an endocrinologist, and so we're able to refer into those systems and allow our patients to get discounted care into those systems also so that they can get their needs met. So I think that I've covered it all. Just a little bit about our funding model. So again, we are both communities. So Sheboygan and Manitowoc County, we did serve 11,000 patients between both communities, a little over 34,000 encounters over last year. Our budget is $11 million. So a little less than 20% of that comes from the federal government. The rest comes from how we get paid from Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, and our uninsured. As we are not a free clinic, our patients do pay something to come in and see us, but we do it on a sliding fee scale and are able to give discounted care to those that are at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. So I think with that, I'm happy to take any questions. I do have a business card. I'm happy to take questions after tonight if you'd like it. And you all have a brochure sitting in front of you.
Are there any questions for Kristen or Gib at this time from the board members? Last chance. All right. Well, Kristen and Gib, thank you very much for your presentation. And like you said, if anybody has any questions, they'll gladly answer them. They've been very receptive to my things I've asked over this last couple of years. So thank you both very much once again for attending. You're certainly welcome again and next year. Or whenever you feel the need and necessary to come back. All right, I'll open up to normal public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand and give your address, and you'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes to speak. Is there anybody wishing to speak this evening from the public comment? Yes, we'll start with Maura.
Good evening. County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer is attempting
Maura, could you give your name and address, please?
Sure.
Thank
Chip Yost from Centerville. County Executive Bob Ziegelbauer is attempting to undermine the legislative function of the county board. While he certainly has the prerogative to express his opinion of legislation under consideration by the county board, he crosses the line between the executive and legislative government functions when he demands that committee members, quote, end the discussion of a possible half-penny sales tax, as he wrote in a recent HTR article. The bonding was just finalized earlier today to complete the borrowing of $1.5 million more authorized at the last county board meeting for the, quote, construction and improvement of highways. Over-reliance on borrowing of highways isn't only a county issue. The Legislative Fiscal Bureau, a nonpartisan state agency, warned in analyzing Governor Walker's 2017-19 state budget that, quote, continued reliance on bonds over a sustained period can result in debt service costs that consume an increasing share of transportation revenue. Manitowoc County's Finance Committee continues its study of a possible half-penny sales tax. At issue is whether it's more fiscally responsible to pay a half-cent more in current dollars as the county goes forward, or to continue to borrow money and pay interest. State law specifies the revenue raised to be used for property tax relief, including items that could be paid for with county property taxes, like the maintenance and repair of road and bridges, or paying off accumulated county debt. A half-penny sales tax would spread the cost of maintaining the county's roads and bridges across all users, including renters and tourists. It retains more of our tax money in our county, reduces property taxes, and shares the cost of road and bridge maintenance with all users, and eliminates borrowing money at uncertain rising interest rates. By reducing our debt level, we have more money to circulate and recirculate within our county. In 2011, the bond rating service Moody's wrote
Maura, you have
about,
about 1 minute.
thank you, wrote about Manitowoc County debt, saying, quote, "The negative outlook reflects the county's ongoing structural imbalances that have led to deterioration in the financial flexibility and limited ability to absorb negative budget variances. That negative rating continued to this day, so taxpayers pay more interest to borrow money." So, which financial strategy is most beneficial to Manitowoc County taxpayers? Is it less expensive to pay a half-penny more in sales tax in today's dollars as we move forward, or is it better to borrow money at future unpredictable interest rates and continue to grow the county's mounting debt? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to the board this evening? Anybody else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? See none, I'll declare public comment closed. Communications are shown on the agenda. There's no unfinished business from our last meeting, so I'll move on to appointments by the county executive. First up will be the Keele Public Library Board of Trustees to appoint one member to succeed David Stolting for a 3-year term expiring July 1st of 2021, and the recommendation is for David Stolting. It's a motion by Supervisor Ballman, second by Supervisor Gauger. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Northeast Wisconsin Regional Economic Partnership to appoint 2 members to succeed Peter Wills and alternate Dan Politsky for a 1-year term expiring to July of 2019. And the recommendation is for Dan Politsky, with the alternate being Peter Wills. Motion by Supervisor Swade, second by Supervisor Hanson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Joint Dispatch Board to appoint 1 member to succeed Teresa Becker for a 2-year term expiring in August of 2020, and the recommendation is for Teresa Becker. So motion by Supervisor Hoffman, second by Supervisor Hendrickson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried, and thank you very much for those appointments. We're going to move on to committee reports, and I'm going to ask a favor, and I apologize Supervisor Hanson for not talking about this, but the more I thought about this as we're moving along, we've got some discussion from the executive committee that might go a little bit longer. We do have Brad Vigat here from Baird. If there's no objection from the board, I would like to move the finance committee to the head of the table here as committee reports, and you certainly give your report and everything into normal as finance committee. I hope I didn't throw a monkey wrench in anything, Supervisor Hanson. And we're, okay. So if there's no objection, we'll start out with the Finance Committee. Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met last Monday and put a price on a piece of property to try to get that back on the tax rolls. Talked a little bit then about the referendum issue. Going to make this real clear that we had a month where people wanted to think about it. Chairman brought in the idea of having a referendum. We had a month to think about it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, members of the committee, but I think even before we thought about it for a month, there was little support from most of the members to go with a referendum. So we appreciate the thoughts of the executive in his letter, but there really wasn't support to do a referendum. We're going to do this, if we do it, as a finance committee and a county board, because it's a decision that you make as legislators, because we will understand it far better than we could ever hope to educate all 82,000 people in this county. It's a very complex issue, complex for the towns and villages and everybody else. So we will make that decision because they elected us to do it. And sometimes you got to make those tough decisions, and it's been done by other county boards, and we'll see how that plays out. I was asked to get all the numbers of every township, every village, every city, and how much they spend on roads and repair. So I sent that email out, and I'm getting that in, and I will put those numbers together, and you can look at it and do what you wish with it. But you will have numbers from every single township, village, and city. But what I want to make crystal clear, when we made that request, and there was some discussion at the committee about this, that I completely trust people at those levels on how they're budgeting and putting money together and spending it. There are good people in towns and villages and cities making the same decisions we make. And if there's anybody that thinks that they're not spending it wisely, you got to trust those people. And I do, because we work with them. But please keep that in mind when you go through these numbers. And some of the notes that I've gotten back so far are areas of the county that had a budget, but an emergency came up and they weren't able to do a street. They weren't able to do a project because they had to spend that money somewhere else. And those are those local decisions that they have to make at that level. And that's how tight things are right now. Things don't get done, streets don't get fixed, potholes don't get fixed because they had to spend it somewhere else. It's not easy out there right now if you're in a village or a township or a city or on a county board. But please remember to trust all those people, because they're good people serving out there. That being said, we're kind of stuck on that issue of, is it legal? That's what we're fighting with right now. So, we had a discussion. I went ahead and contacted Senator Frostman's office. He is a new senator up in District 1 in Door County and northern Manitowoc County, parts of Brown County. I contacted Senator Lemieux's office. He's from Sheboygan County. And I'm asking them for their opinions and the senators' opinions if they can help us out to try to get through this muddy water of what's legal and what's not. What would be a process if we changed a state statute, which would be long and hard and difficult because it's Madison politics, but is that possible? I've heard back from Senator Frostman's office, and they are giving me some ideas, and I'm working with them. Senator Lemieux, not yet, but I'm sure they will come through too. But we might as well reach out and find out if there's ways to do things different. Think about it. Fond du Lac had a sales tax, and it went to help Mercury Marine stay there. They gave them loans. Doesn't sound like that fits in, but it did in Fond du Lac. There are some creative ways around the state. People have tried things, and that's what we're going to talk about. So we will continue this discussion. I know it's getting long, and I know it's hard, but we are not going to spend money foolishly, and we're not going to ask people for money unless we know where it's going. And that's where we're sitting right now. So you are welcome to our meetings anytime, and we'll let you speak. And I appreciate the guys that have been there and come and are learning as the rest of us. So that being said, that was our discussion at the meeting. We'll go ahead to the bonding issue. Brad is still here. Why don't you come up just in case there's some questions. We had a stand-up committee meeting before this county board meeting to approve this sale. Got a little better interest rate than we thought we were going to get. It's down about 0.12 of a point, I think. Why don't you go ahead and just kind of go through it
Sure.
very quickly and help us out. You all have a handout that should be on your desk somewhere. as a guide.
Okay.
I asked Brad, Supervisor Hanson, I asked Brad to come up and speak during this.
Great.
So
Excellent.
yeah, Brad Vegas from Baird, our bond counsel, or not counsel, but our advisors, I guess, in borrowing. So Brad, please take it away.
Sure, and so I'm with Baird. Baird is the underwriter for the county's debt. The first page of this document provides a summary of the resolution that you're considering tonight. Just by way of description, this is a general obligation promissory note in the borrowing amount of $1.5 million. These funds will close on August 7th, so that is the date that the funds are wired to the county. And there's annual maturities or annual principal payments beginning November 1st of 2019. There's a payment in 2020, and the final payment is 2021. So this is a very short issue, a 3-year repayment, and then this issue is completely retired. The first interest payment is scheduled for November of this year, and there's funds available as a component of this financing to make that payment. This issue is non-callable. That means there's not the option to prepay, and the rationale on that, again, is because this is such a short-term obligation, it wouldn't be cost-effective to have a call feature included. The good news, interest rate of 2.72%, that rate is fixed. It won't change over the entire 3-year period, and that's less than the rate that was presented for planning purposes. For planning purposes, we were using 2.84. So overall, the interest cost is less than what we had plugged in for estimates. The following page provides some very detailed schedules of the numbers. The left-hand column are debt payments that the county has already committed to, and all of those payments are fixed. The boxed in area shows the principal and interest of this new obligation, this $1.5 million issue, and then the combination of those two is included towards the right-hand side. So that combined debt service reflects the future debt service budgets for county obligations. Again, overall, a very successful transaction. I'd certainly be glad to go into more detail or answer any questions if anybody has questions.
Anybody have questions for Brad at this time on the borrowing, proposed borrowing, the resolution? Okay. Thank you very much, Brad.
Okay, thank you.
Sure you'll be able, we'll see what happens with the resolution, but I'm sure you'll be able for questions if you need be. Thank you. So I'll turn it back over to Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I will move for adoption of resolution number 4, sale of the 1.5 general obligation promissory notes.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the resolution. Oh, it's like, I'm sorry. Yes, I saw the hand, but I'm sorry, I didn't look at this. So it was second by Supervisor Williams. He jumped the gun. So anyways, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution awarding the sale of $1,500,000 general obligation promissory notes.
The resolution passes 25-0. Anything else, Supervisor Hanson?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Right, any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us to go out of order. It made a little sense because we got some discussions come up with the resolutions for rules. So, and we'll move right back to the normal order of business now. We'll start off with Aging and Disability Resource Center Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The ADRC of the Lake Shore's next meeting will be next week, Tuesday, the 24th of July in Kewaunee County. We will start with the Commission on Aging at 10, followed by the ADRC of the Lake Shore at 10:45. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
We'll meet August 9th at 5 p.m. at the Health Department. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is our representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. There was no meeting for the CJCC Council. The next scheduled meeting is September 5th. For the benefit of the board, I would like to brief you about some of the metrics about the drug court. There are currently 16 individuals enrolled in the program. They pass screening just to be enrolled. Those enrollees have accumulated 450 plus hours of community service by them, 1,000 plus Alcohol Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous meetings attended as part of their commitment. 10 are gainfully employed. 5 of them have obtained driver's licenses privileges. I thought this would be good for the board to know that the progress that this drug court has made. That's my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you. There will be a discussion, a resolution regarding a potential alternate for the, we'll have that discussion when that resolution comes up under the executive committee. So next up will be the executive committee, and I'll start off. We have a resolution authorizing an advisory referendum question on dark store legislation. If somebody like to make a motion to recommend adoption, and then we can discuss from there. So motion by, oh. All right, now we're all set. So is there a motion? Motion by Supervisor Banky. Second by Supervisor Ballman to adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion on the resolution? We'll start off with Supervisor Dizak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm not supporting the resolution for reasons I'm not sure are going to be real popular. The first comment about it is the whole issue has been given an ominous name of dark store. It gives a bad connotation right away that the retailers are bad people. Well, we know that's not true, but that's a message being sent out. Secondly, we call it a loophole. It's not a loophole. It's a tax law. If you use that logic, your home mortgage interest, your charitable deductions, those are all loopholes. Again, it's said that way to give it a negative connotation. So that's my first objective to the way it's written. And the word dark store is used 5 times in the resolution, and loophole is used 4 times. Now the unpopular part. For years, retailers have been paying more property taxes, so the property owners and homeowners get a lower rate, i.e., we're getting a tax break by being homeowners and having the stores pay more for the property tax. So we've been making out a lot of years that for the property owner paying a lower rate. The next question I have is, who decides who comes under this law? How big do you got to be? Does Schroeder's in Two Rivers qualify for this? Do they have to pay more? Does Shopko in Manitowoc? What store is too big where they become a box store and they come under this law? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know who's making that decision either. So big retailers have started to fight back using the loophole so they can fight back and not pay that large property tax. And the reason they're doing it is because taxes have continued to go up. The more they go up, the more the big store pays, and the less the homeowner and a small business person has to pay getting a tax break because of the big box store. So I'm thinking about the fact that you're talking fair property tax. It's one of the tax the rich type situations. They got the money, and all of a sudden they go out of business and their store is closed, and now they pay less because it's worth less. To me, you're taxing the business. They should be taxed on the value of the property, not on the success of their business. And it's also a state issue, not a county level issue that has to be debated at that level. So I don't support the resolution to beg the state to get rid of the loophole. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. I was going to wait a little bit, but I guess I'm going to chime in first. I guess, first of all, let's just give a little explanation on what dark store really means, I guess, in regards to this legislation. As you recall, what's happened over the last several years, the dark store term comes from, like, for example, I'll say Company B has a vibrant store in one area, and they have a vacant store in another area, And they are claiming that since that other store is vacant, that's what they should be paying for in property taxes on their Vibrant store, which I think is ludicrous, because that's not the way our tax system goes. It is based on revenue and assessed value. Supervisor Dizak, I certainly respect your comments, but they're very unpopular when you start saying that the homeowner in Wisconsin should start paying more of their share. Based on what I received from the Wisconsin Alliance of Cities, or I should say the League of Municipalities, right now the tax burden of every $100 of property taxes raised in the state of Wisconsin, 68 of them come from homeowners. Several years ago, that was below 50, it was around 40. It's increased by figure out that percentage. And there's predictions that if this isn't closed and more stores or box stores, whatever you want to call them, start to do this and other entities start using this and it starts falling through, it's predicted to go up by another 8%. So potentially 76% of property taxes raised in Wisconsin will be borne by the homeowner, as compared to Minnesota where it's basically 50-50. That's scary. That's very scary. I think the homeowner is bearing the brunt, most of the brunt, and has for years, and will continue to do so. And not that I'm against small levy freeze rate, which we are all under, but when you start shifting those taxes, it can't go anywhere. It's going to have to go to the homeowner, and that's what's going to happen here. We're not allowed to increase taxes except for growth. And if the state legislature doesn't understand that, then it will be continued to be shifted to the homeowners. Actually, if we recall too, this legislation was before the legislature in the last term. It looked like it was going to come out of the assembly pretty well, but I think Senator Fitzgerald in the Senate stopped it. So all I'm asking, I guess, well, the County Association and actually the League of Municipalities and even the Towns Association, if I recall correctly, had asked that counties have this advisory referendum, because obviously it's advisory, just to show, it would be nice if the state would actually have a statewide referendum on the advisory, but of course they're not going to. But regardless of the results of the election on November 6th, whether the houses of the Assembly and the Senate remain Democratic, Republican, whatever governor we have, I'm hoping that the counties that have this resolution and this referendum on the November 6th ballot can at least show to their representatives that represent that county how their constituents feel about this situation. So hopefully, regardless of what partisanship happens in next term, hopefully this loophole will be closed. So those are my 2 cents for now, so I'll go back to speaking. Supervisor Dizak, thank you very much. Supervisor Falkowski, you are next.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I shared similar notations when I was reading the referendum questions, and it kind of concentrated a lot on using the language in an expressive way. I think that was not necessarily implicit to what was being talked about. So as Supervisor Dizak pointed out, a loophole is maybe an expression of an act like that, but in technical terms, it's a tax rule, it's a tax code. What I find interesting in the arguments or in the discussions about the big store, retailer, dark store kind of concept is that everybody's playing on the rules. The companies actually probably litigated, adjudicated the tax code, and it was in their favor. And now there's a disparity between that fairness, let's say, and what is desired maybe from a municipal's interest. From that standpoint, I think that everybody really should concentrate on how they feel about this stuff, but my intention at this discussion level is to actually offer an amendment to the lines of 1, 6, 9, and 14, and 20, representing loopholes and referring it to tax codes or tax rules. Like for instance, well, actually the first line, line 1, dark store tax benefits, I would take out break and use the word benefits. Like line 6, dark store tax rules, I would insert instead of loopholes. Line 9, dark store tax code rules, I would insert instead of loophole. Line 14, dark store tax rules. once again, remove loophole. Line 20, dark store, use tax rules again, remove loophole. That's my,
So is that amendment,
proposed-
so you
yes,
said
it is.
Supervisor Falkowski?
I'm asking for an amendment.
Right. Is there a second to that amendment? Second by Supervisor Dizak. I just want to make sure that the clerk has it correctly. So, let's hold on while we get this typed in correctly. Forgetting. Yeah, Supervisor Dizak, can you press the button and second it once again? Just so it's, there we go. Okay, you have the amendments? Does everybody understand the amendments? So discussion on the amendment, I will continue down the speakers list. Supervisor Zimmer, but to speak to the amendment.
Wait a minute, I'm confused here. What am I supposed to do?
Well, we had a motion to adopt the resolution. We had some discussion. Supervisor Falkowski made a motion to amend the resolution and to essentially change the wording and take out loophole in line, here we go. I will read the suggested amendment again. In line 1, it would take out dark store and add tax benefits. In line 6, take out dark school and put in tax rules. On line 9, it would take out loophole and put in tax code rules. Line 14, tax rules replacing loophole, and on line 20, tax rule replacing loophole once again.
Well, I wanted to talk about the resolution itself.
You will be able to eventually this motion will either become part of the final resolution or we'll revert back to the original, but right now we're discussing the amendment.
All right, well,
You were next on the speakers list, Supervisor Zimmer, that's why I asked you first.
I have no comment on that particular,
Okay.
this particular issue. I have comments on
Correct.
the resolution itself.
So you will certainly get your chance when we go back to that, so thank you very much. Supervisor Hanson, you were next on the amendment.
On this part.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Vogel on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will have a comment on the amendment. I note on the back side of the resolution that our corporation counsel had put his initials on this resolution, so I'm assuming that it was okay with him. The bottom of the first side, mine lists 2018-CB-36A-76 of 2018. So I'm assuming that's when all this was approved to go in front of this assembly. I will not be supporting the amendment. I think if our corporation counsel reviewed this and okayed it, it should be good enough for us to vote on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Just I'll get a little information too, because this was a sample resolution that Outagamie passed, of which they were gonna have the referendum on November 6th. I passed that information on this to Peter to draft it, and I always say to Manitowoc, it. So, and that's what he did. Essentially, it's the same thing. It's essentially the same question. It's definitely approved by Peter, so that's where it came from. So, all right, yes, please.
I do want to clarify one point. So I do approve as to form. I will not approve as to policy. So that is ultimately the policy decision as to whether or not to approve a resolution or to amend or not amend a resolution does lie within the authority of this body. I do not want to jump into policy decisions.
Thank you. All right, to the amendment, Supervisor Dizak.
Yeah, my second of this motion comes from the fact that basically it kind of takes away some of the wording and makes it clearer to what these are. They're not loopholes, they're tax laws. I'd also like to have seen the word dark store removed, but the resolution still is in question in my mind, but at least this makes it a little clearer to what it is and takes away some of the negative connotations. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Supervisor Falkowski, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's where I probably actually engaged a little bit more in, because I knew this was either based on a template and it not necessarily being crafted for our particular needs. So it does pass, the qualifications. Is this like legal, or does it conform to our standards or for our form standards? That's true. But in many of these template situations, we do have an opportunity to improve or to be more accurate. And I thought using expressions are not necessarily precise. These are tax issues. They're not kind of generic expressions of loopholes. And that's what generated my interest in crafting, I guess, some amendment to the wording on this resolution. That's pretty much the premise. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote on the amendment to the resolution.
Supervisors will now be voting on amending the resolution in line 1, removing the word break, adding the word benefits. Line 6, removing the word loophole and replacing it with the word rules. Line 9, removing loophole, replacing it with tax code rules. Line 14, removing loophole and replacing it with tax rules. Line 20, removing loophole, replacing with tax rule.
If Supervisors Holschbach, Nichols, let's see, we're getting there. Okay, we have to go back on, I'm looking out for Jessica's. Can we get back on this one? All right, there we go, perfect. We're getting there. So the motion amendment failed 8-17 with Supervisors Williams, Gauger, Benke, Niles, Wagner, Falkowski, Giroux, and Dizak voting yes. So we are back to the main motion of the main the resolution. So I open up for discussion once again. Whoever wants to speak on that. Supervisor Zimmer, now you can speak on the resolution in its entirety.
What exactly is a dark store loophole? It's not explained in the proposed 46-word advisory referendum question. The longer the sentence, the more confusing it becomes. Voters like me would wonder what in heaven's name is meant by dark store. The designation, as my friend Dizak, Dave Dizak pointed out, is sinister. The first thing I thought of, something out of Marvel Comics. People will have, the average citizen will have no idea what they are voting for. So the advisory referendum is a waste of the $7,500, which is the estimated cost for printing and publishing this question. I talked to Representative Tittle, and he supports dark store legislation, apparently to make some of the corrections that you, Mr. Chairman, suggest are needed. So he said, why do we need this advisory referendum? He's already working on corrective legislation. Representative Andre Jacques, said that the Legislative Council Study Committee is working on a legislative proposal. He said that this issue is a complicated one because it involves assessment of property whose value is often difficult to obtain. We've seen this in assessments placed on our own houses and properties, which we often contest for good reason. I believe that the property owner has a right to, whether it's a business or you or I, has a right to challenge property assessments. Of course, the burden of proof is always lies with the property owner who challenges the assessment. The advisory suggested advisory referendum does not explain what the dark store loophole is. The average citizen is going to look at this and maybe check yes, and maybe a majority of the citizens will agree with this referendum, but it's not going to give us any indication of what the public really thinks, because they're not going to understand what this is, because it's not explained. This is a difficult issue. A one-sentence simplistic referendum question does not address the complexity of the problem and does not allow voters to make a well-informed decision. It's up to us, the elected officials, to keep abreast of pending legislation and stay in close contact with our state legislators as they craft legislation to address this issue. Supervisor Hanson talked about contacting Senator LeMahieu and Senator Frostman. That's exactly what we need to do regarding this dark store legislation. Badger our legislators to do what we want them to do, but don't put a confusing advisory referendum question out there. It doesn't adequately explain what the dark horse loophole is, and it doesn't explain what the voters are supposed to answer yes or no to. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. And I guess, once again, I try not to do this in the middle of the debate, but I'm going to respond to several of your comments. First of all, yes, Representative Tittle was a co-sponsor of the legislation in the State Assembly to close this loophole, and I give him a lot of credit for that. Other than that, I guess I disagree with a lot of the things you had mentioned about, and I go back to around 2000. If you all recall, Manitowoc County didn't have a county executive until 2002 when Dan Fisher was elected their first county executive. And we had a binding referendum here in Manitowoc County on creating the position of county executive. It was generally basically, do you want a county executive? And it was amazing that people didn't know the difference between a county executive, an administrator, and an administrative coordinator either. But guess what? The supervisors informed people. The newspapers, the media, radio, all informed what that meant. And I still remember, and I know Supervisor Banky probably remembered his comment, and he didn't support having a county executive, but it wasn't the point. But I still remember the comments by a supervisor at that time that the public won't know what they're voting on. They'll just vote whatever they feel like. They don't know what they're talking about. That supervisor wasn't reelected the following year. So they do know what they're talking about. They pay attention. I have faith in my constituents and they don't know what they're going to be doing. And I have faith on this as well. If you think we're wasting money giving our chance for our constituents or the citizens of Manitowoc County to voice their opinions to the state legislators, so be it. I disagree with that. I think this is a great opportunity. And it's going to tell them, like I said, regardless if it's a Democratic-controlled legislature, Republican, or mixed, whatever it's going to be, it's going to tell them that, hey, X amount of percentage of people support my position on this, or X amount don't support my position, and I can go forward to this. Let's stop the wrangling. Like I said, it does take time. It does take, and we have been haggling our legislators. I've talked to Representative Tittle. I've talked to Senator LeMahieu. I've talked to Representative Jock as well. I've talked to the governor on the queue as we're seeing at little events. And just quickly give a quick, I don't want to say jab, but a quick couple words. We need to pass this. So I think people are doing that. I still have faith in our constituents of this county that they're going to do this. And if they vote it down, fine, so be it. We tell our legislators that we don't want to be part of this. We think it's fine. We think the homeowners should be facing more of a burden in this. So my 2 cents on that. I'll let you respond, sure, yes.
Well, I have faith in our voters too, but this one sentence, incomplete explanation of what the dark store loophole is, or what the whole darn issue, codenamed dark store, isn't going to help these people to make a wise decision. So we shouldn't put it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Williams, you are next.
Thank you. I'm just wondering why we couldn't just, in our little 25-person group here representing 82,000 people, why we couldn't send a resolution to our Assembly and Senate representatives either for this or against it, without having to go to a advisory resolution, is that what I'm talking?
Yes, I guess
Referendum,
I
yeah.
can address that, and I don't want to be 100% sure on this, and I have to check, but I thought we already did in this term. I thought, last term, I guess I thought we passed a resolution in support of closing this loophole.
Well, maybe we should let them know again. You know, we heard that.
We can tell them that on November 6th when the people of this county tell them that, but that's an option as well. I mean, there's
I mean,
things
we
out
heard
there
that they
definitely.
are, I mean, we've had people that have contacted our representatives, and they say they are working on it, so it's,
Well, I don't know how they're working on it. They're out of session right now. I don't know how they're working on it. They're all in election mode right now, so.
Well-
It'll be, this, from my standpoint, after November 6th, like I said, regardless of who's in charge or what's going on, if this resolution passes tonight, that vote on November 6th will tell our elected representatives how Manitowoc County feels on this issue. My opinion. You still have the floor, Supervisor Williams. I'm sorry to interrupt.
well, that's my 2 cents worth.
Yes. Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anybody else wishing to speak on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution authorizing advisory referendum question on dark store legislation.
Supervisor Hanson. Okay. There we go. So resolution passes 18-7 with Supervisors Bruner, Williams, Zimmer, Falkowski, Girold, Dizak, and Swade voting no. Good debate, and I certainly respect everybody's opinions. I mean, we all get passionate, and I understand your opinions on this, so, but I think it's the best thing for the election on November 6th, so. Thank you very much on that. And I will move on to the next item from the Executive Committee, which was several proposed rule changes, and we'll go through them one at a time. The first one, if you look at your resolution, was for amending Rule 4A of the County Board Rules to read as follows. Meeting time, meetings of the County Board will commence at 6:30 p.m. or as soon as after they may practical unless another starting time is specified in the meeting notice. So that would essentially change the starting time from 7 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And under Rule 10, there's an addition, I guess an addition which will become number A. In an effort to reduce costs and pursue good environmental stewardship, the delivery and distribution of agendas, resolutions, ordinances, information packets, and other documents shall be paperless when possible. And I'll go back and discuss that one in a bit after we get potential motion. Then also part of that motion as well will become E. The county clerk will distribute, copies was crossed out there, doesn't distribute, well, yeah, okay, now I understand. Distribute the proposed budget to each supervisor and the corporation council at or before the first regular meeting after the county clerk has received the copy. So it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in paper form. It'd probably be, if it's possible, to be in electronic form. The next portion would be under the new F, copies of late resolutions, ordinances, written motions, and other papers will be distributed to the county board by the county clerk and may be considered if the matter has been properly noticed in accordance with the Wisconsin open meeting laws. Essentially, it's the same thing, that it doesn't necessarily have to be in paper. And I will continue to go on to the other rule change, potential rule change, and it's not really a rule change, just kind of exemplifies it, I guess, in our rules. Under debate, number 21 would be adding C and D, Robert's Rules of Order notwithstanding, A member is limited to speaking no more than twice on the same topic and may not speak in excess of 10 minutes on the same topic. And D, Robert's Rules of Order notwithstanding, after a motion to table, each member may personally speak to the merits of the motion to table once for no more than any 2 minutes. So those are the proposed rule changes as proposed by the Executive Committee. I'd like a motion to approve that resolution. Motion by Supervisor Banky. And seconded by Supervisor Hoffman. And now we'll go on to discuss the rule changes. Like I said, I think the first one is pretty simple, just changing the half-hour time. I thought it might be, I know some people had suggested 6 p.m. I think that might be a little bit of hardship for people coming home from work at 5 if they want to come, not only the supervisor, but the public wants to come if they want to eat quick or change or get rest from work for a little bit. At least 6:30 is kind of like halfway in between, so there should be plenty of time yet to go there. The paperless portion, and I know some committees are already doing this, and I guess that's why I brought it up. It was my intent to essentially go paperless for almost everything we have, but I know it's kind of hard without everybody having some kind of iPad, computer and stuff, but I am going to be in consultation with the county executive, because the department heads are his employees. I am going to ask the department heads from now on that when agendas are sent out, and I'll use the highway committee as a prime example, and and Public Works too. I got to give Jerry credit because they've been doing that for years as well. The agendas are all sent out by email, and all the documentation it goes out by email as well. So there's no paper copies unless requested by one of the supervisors that are made. And that's perfect. The cost savings there will be very good. The documents will still be there. They'll be saved. It's not like they're going away. You'll always have access to get these documents. It'll help the clerk's office. But I also, part of this, I want every document that is used for the committee assignment or for the committee's discussion to also be sent as well. I defer back to highway again, and it was a great example. Last month, highway committee meeting, there was all the statistics about summer employees and everything that they discussed. The supervisors, right now, currently, most supervisors get a copy of the agenda electronically, but not the supporting documentation. So I want to see that as well. So everybody should be getting that. I haven't talked to the clerk's office yet about how we want to potentially do it with the county board packets. I think the mailing costs can be eliminated. Essentially, we don't mail out the paper stuff unless you requested it. You're still going to request paper copies here at the county board meeting. I'll be honest, I like a paper agenda in front of me. I'm not going to deny that. But that's the intent of that. It doesn't say we have to do that, but I think we're pushing ourselves to do that, and I hope it's the best way to go, at least for this stage of the game. And essentially, the rest of those rule changes regarding that is the same portion. Probably the more controversial one, and it doesn't really have to be the 21, is the debate, the Robert's Rules of Order portion of it. And Peter and I went back, and I'll be honest, I can't find when these were changed, but I went to talk to him about, because if you notice for the last several years, we've essentially had unlimited debate on everything we've had, because I'll be honest, I thought it was part of the rules. Under Robert's Rules of Order, before they're amended by a board or a committee or whatever you want to call it, you're allowed 2 times to speak to an issue, and with essentially 10 minutes of time limit on those discussions things. And under a motion to table or postpone, you're not actually, there's no discussion. It's an automatic vote. At one time, the county board changed those rules to allow change the rules to have unlimited debate on discussion purposes on anything, including motions to table. So that's what I've been practicing. I'll be honest, I think it's gotten a little cumbersome over the years, and I thought we should go back to Robert's Rules of Order, the way it was written. So essentially, when we looked to change the rules, they haven't been in our rules for several years, so we've actually, I don't want to say been violating our rules, but we haven't been following rules. We should have been following the 2 discussion limit all along, and actually no limit or no discussion on a motion to table, but I don't agree with that. I think everybody should at least get one chance for that. So that's where it comes from. So if that portion of the rules do not pass tonight, or this whole other packet, essentially we're going to be at what Robert's Rules of Order say anyways, then would be limited to 2 times discussion on each motion and no discussion on a motion to table or postpone. I hope that clarifies a little bit of the stuff. I know I kind of rattled it off there. But I will open it up for discussion on all portions of the resolution. Supervisor Falkowski, you were first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Officially, is our corporate counsel the parliamentarian?
That is correct.
Correct.
All right, so all the determination comes from your judgment then?
No?
I mean, as far as the rules, I mean, if there's a breach of the rules, you apply your...
Oh, that way, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right, just checking, thank you.
And I guess I asked Peter in this case because, you know, we couldn't find the rule change that essentially brought it back to what Robert's Rules of Order was when those other two were eliminated. But Peter advised, and I agree with this, actually makes sense. He thought it'd be a better, and it wasn't set in policy, it was just to be more explicit to have those stated explicitly in our county board rules. Then everybody knows that debate is limited to 2 and 1 debate on motion to table or postpone. So essentially, it's our rules that should have been doing for the last several years. Supervisor Zimmer, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious, when you say Robert's Rules of Order notwithstanding, does that mean that despite what Robert's Rules of Order say, we're going to do this? And does that mean that we had been under following Robert's Rules of Order? I'm a little confused.
When you say notwithstanding, you are meaning what that generally means, and in this particular instance, what it means is it doesn't matter what Robert's Rules of Order says, these are what our rules are. The thing about Roberts is they can change, so they're newly revised. They're newly revised fairly frequently, and more importantly, then you have to keep up with what they are and then follow along with those rules. That's why, if it's an important rule, quite frankly, put it in your county board rules and set it in stone. That way, everybody who is on the county board knows what rules they are playing by. If it's important, it should be included. If it's not important, then we can deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, the important things that need to be called out, the things that need to be identified, should be put in your specific county board rules. That's why you have those.
I just want, okay, so we don't necessarily follow Robert's Rules of Order. I mean,
Yes, yes.
I mean, it's a guide, correct?
No, we follow Robert's Rules of Order to the extent that Robert's Rules of Order are not otherwise modified by the county board rules.
Okay. A couple more things, if I might. Talking about the distribution of the documents, I presume we mean the distribution via email, correct? I see the clerk will distribute, mail is crossed out, so I presume that these documents are going to be distributed via email. Am I right on that?
I guess what the rule change basically says, it doesn't necessarily have to be by mail anymore. We've stopped short of requiring that everything be electronic.
Okay, so,
Because there's going to be, I know there's some instances here that people don't have access to a laptop or a computer, stuff like that. So at this stage, I'm hoping that the vast majority of everything can be done electronically, but I know there's going to be some exceptions.
okay, so it's just that we are eliminating snail mail, you know, the old-fashioned.
Right, it doesn't, under our old rule, it had to be mailed out.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't necessarily have to be mailed. I mean, especially if you're requested or the committee chair recommends or suggests that, nope, this should all be sent out electronically, that's, in my mind, a good thing.
Okay, one more thing regarding allowing people to speak. What if there's a claim made against a supervisor by somebody? Does that particular supervisor who the claim is made against get to respond?
I know there's, and maybe we can talk to you with Peter as well. There are opportunities in the Robert's Rules of Order. For example, I'll use you, Supervisor Zimmer. You've spoken on an issue twice, so you've used up your 2 allotments. And all of a sudden, you came up with another valid point, or like you said, somebody is challenging you or made some comments that you didn't agree with. You have the ability to request, actually you can start, there's several options. One of them is to request unlimited debate for a subject or for a resolution or whatever discussion period is. If it passes by a majority of the board, that would be unlimited discussion for that motion or for that resolution. Or number 2, you can defer to ask somebody to allot some of their time. So Supervisor Ballman, who hasn't spoken at all, for example, you might ask him to speak, and Supervisor Ballman would say, I defer one of my speaking turns to Supervisor Zimmer to speak on that issue. So there are opportunities to keep speaking.
I guess I'll have to brush up on my Robert's Rules of Order.
Out of order, Supervisor Payne.
Thank you.
Nothing but question. Was that it for now, Supervisor Zimmer?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Vogt, I apologize before. I think I chopped you off and I turned you off, and I apologize for that. So you are up next.
Okay, that's okay. It's, I think, a personal thing with me more than anything else. I don't go to meetings undressed. When it comes to paper at the meetings, it's like going to a meeting undressed. If I had a computer, a portable computer of some sort, I'd have my stuff in front of me. When I go to a meeting, I want my paper. I will make copies of that stuff off of my personal computer at home. I probably have about 9 months backlog of every meeting that I go to at home before I throw it out. I just feel I will continue making my copies for my meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogt. Supervisor Giroux, you were next.
Thank you. I just wanted, we discussed this at the executive committee level. Anybody who wants to continue to receive any paper documentation for whatever reason is welcome to continue to receive that, because there are people that either don't have the necessary equipment, or they're not comfortable with using it, or whatever. So if you want agendas, if you want support materials or whatever, those would still be provided. And I think everybody agrees to that. It's just if for people who don't need it, it's definitely a savings. I mean, you're getting printouts and paper for meetings, looking at them very briefly, then presumably, if you're not saving them, you're recycling them. So it's, mailing costs, paper costs, everything. This is going to be a significant savings. So, yeah, I just want to make everybody aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Giroux. Supervisor Bauman, you were next.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did print mine out this time, and it was pretty time-consuming, especially the resolutions from Park and Planning, and trying to print out those GIS maps and stuff took a lot of ink and a lot of time. So that's just my point of view on personal computer printing.
Thank you, and I don't want to start that discussion again, but I also feel that potentially, and I'll lay it on the line right now, and I know it's going to get some flack, and it probably won't be funny, but we have the ultimate voice. I will be asking for some form of electronic computer again for the county board supervisors in the budget for next year, so that we can go in at least entirely paperless from documents being sent. But that's another story, and that's another subject. Continue on with the rule changes. Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up what Supervisor Giroux said, there is an opt-out provision for this, so that's part of the deal. It's if you don't want to have the paper stuff, you can opt out of having it, and anybody else that wants it can continue to receive the documents as they have in the past. That's correct. Thank you. Just clarifying.
Thank you Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to ask a question. So in other words, like, let's say we go paperless, and we want to bring in our own either tablet or computer or whatever, we can bring that into this room. I always thought there was a rule that we couldn't bring electronics into here.
No, there's no.
Well, no, I know at one point they had said, electronics are recording devices in this room. That's why I don't know where this came up, but that's why, you're not supposed to have it on your desk or
I
whatever.
guess I don't recall that, but maybe at one time there was something there. My only question, I guess, and I'll be talking with Jerry in the IS department that is in this room, if we all do go to some kind of personal computer / iPad or whatever, is whether the Wi-Fi will be able to handle essentially 30 different devices within this room, but that'll be a discussion, like I said, later as well.
Okay, the other question I have, would it be a secure, because I know a lot of times when you come into this building, it's not a secure Wi-Fi that we all logged on to. And I think, if we're gonna go paperless, if we could get a secure Wi-Fi in this building, at least to protect our personal devices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Henriksen. Supervisor Metzger.
I was just wondering, for those of us that can't get copies off our computer, if we could maybe add a part in one of these paragraphs that would just say that if we really want it, that we can get it. Would that be I don't think I see it in here anywhere that we can't.
You're right, it's not there because it just, essentially the rules doesn't say it's mandatory yet.
Right.
This is just a suggestion to be environmentally safe. So as I mentioned, and now has been mentioned by 3 people, you still have the ability to get printed documents.
Okay. And as far as the debate part goes, sometimes it does happen where you want to speak up again. What about just putting something like, because we always do have, we can call a question. So if we would put it the way that we've been doing it, which was, I guess, kind of illegal because we weren't really following. But if we wanted to have a longer debate, we could always put that, because we all know that we can call a question at any time, and that would end the debate.
No, but that's not true because a call the question would, if there's an objection from any member, that would continue debate.
Right, but-
Motion to
right,
call
but
the question would be
We'd have to
votable.
vote on it, but at least then that way, that might be more of a compromise.
Thank you for your comments. Any other discussion on the rule changes, on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution amending county board rules regarding county board meeting time, encouraging paperless distribution, and limiting debate.
So the resolution passes 23-2 with supervisors vote and Kavanaugh voting no. So, like I said, thank you for the proposal, for the changes. We're not going entirely paperless, but I think it's the way of the future. Many county boards across the state of Wisconsin have gone paperless. They have supplied the supervisors with some form of electronic devices. As you're probably aware, and I've mentioned as an alderman for the city of Manitowoc, when an alderman is elected to his or her two-year term, they are provided with an iPad, which becomes theirs as part of their salary. So the wave of the future is coming. So just throwing that out there once again. All right, last but not least, under the executive committee, I have a resolution authorizing an alternate criminal justice coordinating committee member. Is there a motion to approve that resolution? So motion by Supervisor Zimmer. And seconded by, whoever comes up here. Seconded by Supervisor Bauman. Discussion on the resolution. Supervisor Falkowski approached me with this last term about if there's times when he can't make it to this Criminal Justice Coordinating Council about having an alternate. And I at the time had thought, well, maybe we should appoint another person, and I talked with several members there, and it would throw off the balance, I guess, and potentially more ties could happen with a vote, not that there's a lot of this dissent, I guess, among the council. But after having the executive committee meeting, the other two supervisors, Banky and Joel, supported, I guess, the alternate. I guess I have no problem with that. The only thing I had with that was, I mean, several years ago when we had the Ice Center board was separate from then the Expo board when it wasn't combined. Myself and Supervisor, oh, help me, from Two Rivers. Anyways, the supervisor from Two Rivers, Les Keppel, he was on the Ice Center board with myself, and essentially we had half a vote apiece. We were just on there, but we had half a vote. So that was always interesting. So I guess I didn't want to create that scenario. So I'm in favor of this. Obviously, the alternate would not get any per diem, well, there's no per diem anyways, would not be getting mileage or anything like that. I guess it would be up to the chair of the CJCS to our CCC. Oh, that's too far, maybe CCCs. To be allowed part of the discussion if they wanted to attend that meeting. But I guess in the case that it would be an alternate, I'm sure Supervisor Falkowski would contact that appointee ahead of time that I can't make it and you'll be allowed to come. But then you would have full member privileges at that meeting when Supervisor Falkowski isn't there. That explain a little bit better? All right. So if there's no other discussion, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing alternate criminal justice coordinating council member.
So the resolution passes 24-01 with Supervisor Falkowski abstaining. All right. That is a county board chair appointment, so I will try to make that appointment next month. If anybody's interested in that, please let me know by email, phone, or mail, or whatever, which way you'd like to let me know, and I will make that recommendation to the board next month. And that's all I have for the executive committee. Is there any other questions or comments on the executive committee? All right, thank you. Expo Ice Center Board, Supervisor Gauger is our representative. Any questions for Supervisor Gauger? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Banky is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on July 10th. Most of you received the packet as the chairman had spoken. We're going to provide that information. I think that's a lot of, like, the map for the salt bids that went out to all the different counties, and we were at 58, and we were cheapest by 10 cents. For $10. It's just good information that you should know. And if you have any questions on that information that you get, make sure that you talk to Mark about that. We talked about summer help, and Mark explained where we get our summer help from, how many we have, and what jobs they do and their job descriptions. We have a replacement for many of you, some of you know that John Kropp through SMI did a lot of our bridge work. We're hiring a engineering technician position. Gary Mueller started in that position on July 9th, and we went through his job tasks, and it was substantial. And so we have an individual that's got a lot of work on his plate, and hopefully that's going to move well forward in the future. We talked about 2018 construction update, which was also in your packet, so you're aware of what roads that we're working on, the salt bids, and the increase in funding on the bridge on R. There were some structural changes that were made into the girders on that bridge, so our cost, that project cost went up. Mark petitioned that to the state for funding, and we received an extra $288,000 for that bridge project. So our next meeting will be August 14th at 4:30. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Banky? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Hendrickson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met on Thursday, June 28th. In public comment, Nancy Slattery spoke regarding a poverty study by the League of Women Voters. The study is available online at the League of Women Voters website. Nancy Slattery has also forwarded an email regarding the study to all board members. Deb Willicutt, the Economic Support Supervisor, provided an overview of the Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program, WEAP. The regular season runs from October 1st through May 15th, and households may be eligible for a one-time heating benefit to help pay a portion of their heating costs. One-time public electric payment is also available. Manitowoc County WEAP caseload comparisons last heating season to this heating season are down 3.8%. This may be potentially due to a mild winter and average benefits were higher. Actual paid benefits increased. Paid out 3.9% more compared to last year. Statewide total caseloads decreased by 3.5%. On fiscal year 2018, the average heat benefit was $336. And that was in 2017, excuse me, in $311 in the fiscal year. Basically, Keep Wisconsin Warm funds are a collaboration, excuse me for that, collected from fundraising and some state match. Manitowoc County received $18,149 this year. Funds are received in late February or early March. Funds are used for the crisis situations. It says, factors contributing to the increase in the projected deficit for 2018 were discussed. One child was placed in a residential care center in May and is expected to be there through the rest of 2018. We have one client who's been at Mendota Mental Health for several months. Several attempts were made placements that would meet the client's needs, but all failed. Basically, what we have is our next meeting will be in August, where we will have our annual budget hearing before our meeting, and that will be on August 23rd, 2018. And we will have a meeting at 4 p.m., which will start our public hearing on our budget. So anybody who's got interest in the public budget may come to speak. There's rules that we have to follow, and right after that, we will have our meeting. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hendrickson? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee, Natural Resource and Education Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The Land Conservation Committee will have this Thursday their next meeting, the 19th, at the County Office Complex at 4:30. Natural Resource and Education's next meeting will be August 9th at the County Office Complex and at 4:30. And again, save the date, the 28th and the 29th of July is the grand opening of the Farm Wisconsin Discovery Center. And there's also August 10th, a Friday, for Lake Michigan Day at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum in Manitowoc. Pre-registration is needed by July 27th. You can go to lakemichiganstakeholders.org for that information. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
Thank you. Just an update, a conditional offer was made to an information system manager, and hope that the person can begin sometime the week of July 23rd. The interviews have been done for the system administrator, and a conditional offer was made, which was declined. So re-recruiting for that position until August 6th. In the meantime, an existing systems administrator continues in his assignment to the Human Services Department. Our next meeting will be August 7th at 4:45, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Marsh? Thank you very much. Planning Park Commission, Supervisor Zimmer, you'll be giving a report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The first three resolutions I'm presenting for consideration concern the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources matching grant funding, which is available to through their recreational boating facility program. The first resolution concerns repairs and maintenance needed at Cedar Lake. The repair and maintenance project may take up to 2 years to complete. The cost is $93,300, half of which $46,650 could be funded through the grant program. Now, we hope that you'll approve our request to apply for and accept the Department of Natural Resources grant in the amount of $46,650 for the purpose of the completion of the project at Cedar Lake Public Access, and I so move for consideration of approval.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Volk to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? See none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing grant application for Cedar Lake Public Access.
He's trying. There we go. Resolution passes 25-0.
Thank you. The next resolution concerns the Long Lake Public Access, another grant request, same as before. The project, again, will take 2 years to complete. Total cost of this project is $97,500, which half, or $48,750, would be funded through the grant program if approved. So we request that the board authorize the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors Planning Director to apply for and accept the Natural Resources Grant in an amount of up to $48,750 for the purpose of completing the project, and I so move for approval.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Niles. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution authorizing grant application for Long Lake Public Access.
The resolution passes 25-0.
Thank you. The third application is for Silver Lake Public Access. And this project may also take about 2 years to complete. Total project cost $41,300. Half of the cost is $20,650. That is what we are applying for through the grant program. And I so move for a request for approval of this grant application.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Williams. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution authorizing grant application for Silver Lake Public Access.
Resolution passes 25-0.
The next resolution concerns amending the Manitowoc County Code, Chapter 13, Private Sewage Systems, to correct certain references in Chapter 13 in the table of contents which were correctly outdated. You can see the list of parts to Chapter 13 with the corrections underlined, and I so move for approval of this request.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Vogt. Discussion on the ordinance. Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending Manitowoc County Code, Chapter 13, Private Sewage Systems, the table of contents.
The ordinance passes 25-0.
Thank you. The next resolution is for amending a zoning map. It was a request made by Scott and Michelle Pritzel to rezone approximately 5 acres of land from general agriculture to large estate. Scott and Michelle petitioned at our meeting on the 29th of May. We approved their request, sent it forward. The Cato Town Board and Town Planning Commission supports the proposed zoning change, and I hereby request the approval of the county board.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Kavanaugh. Discussion on the ordinance? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Scott and Michelle Pritzel.
Supervisor Zimmer, would you like to try again, please?
All right, let me see here.
Did I miss you speaking, Supervisor Banky?
Thank you.
So the ordinance passes 25-0.
The next request for amending the zoning map comes from Quality Roasting, a company in Cato. They have petitioned the County Board of Supervisors to rezone approximately 9 acres of land in the town of Cato from exclusive agriculture to commercial business. The Cato Town Board and Town Planning Commission supports the proposal, so does the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we present a request for approval from the county board.
So is that a motion, Supervisor Zimmer?
That is a motion, sir.
And second by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending the zoning map for Quality Roasting.
Supervisor Wagner. Okay. You try over again? Yeah, try voting again once, see what happens. Or did the battery die in mid-vote? Don't hold it down, just try one more. No, let's not do that. Well, I'm not gonna hold it up anymore, so I assume you're gonna vote yes? All right. We can't move until that works. This is not good. Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. So the ordinance passed 25-0, I'm assuming it was okay. Great.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, one last zoning amendment request by Paul and Tammy Scheffel. From the town of Two Rivers, they request that 2.125 acres be amended from, or rezoned from commercial business to natural area. The Two Rivers Town Board and Town Planning Commission supports the proposed zoning change, and I move for approval from the county board.
So motion by Supervisor Zimmer, second by Supervisor Hoffman. Discussion on the ordinance. See none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Paul and Tammy Scheffel.
The ordinance passes 25-0.
That is all that I have, except for the date of the next meeting, and I'm not sure when that date is. Maybe my colleague, Mr. Dizak, can let us know. 27th? Monday, the 27th.
Sorry, 23rd, sorry, 23rd.
Monday, the 23rd of July is our next meeting. Pardon me?
Had the wrong month, it's okay.
Let's just say it's coming up for this purpose right now, but I...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions for Supervisor Zimmer? Thank you again. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Vogel is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a short meeting on July 11th, and from that meeting, I bring you resolution number 12, which is a resolution accepting a donation of $2,353.32 for the Manitowoc County Sheriff's K-9 Unit, and I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Vogel. Second by Supervisor Falkowski to accept the donation. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will vote on the resolution accepting donation of $2,353.32 for the Manitowoc County Sheriff's K-9 Unit.
Supervisor Kavanaugh and Supervisor Wagner, we're having trouble again, I see. Supervisor Vogel. This is down, this is Chicago where you vote twice, yes. So this is perfect. So the resolution passed 25-0. Anything else, Supervisor Vogel?
That'd be it, Mr. Chair, and the next meeting is undetermined at this point, depending on what comes forward to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Giroll is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Public Works Committee met last Wednesday, July 11th. First part of the meeting was meeting with the Recycling Advisory Committee. John Reisenbuehler gave a report on the recycling program. We went over Clean Sweep, another successful year, as you heard in the proclamation. I think that's really doing the Lord's work. Statewide, I think this year they picked up 68,000 pounds of meds that kept from going somewhere, other than where it should be, which is an incinerator. So it's really a good program. The rest of the meeting was given over to the Cow Barn and the upcoming county fair. So everybody remember that's coming up and to attend it. It's going to be a great fair, and that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Giroll? Thank you very much. Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Bauman is the chair.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Anybody have any quick announcements? Supervisor Banky.
Yes, you received the schedule for volunteering at the fair. If you could let me know if you have